Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Monday, June 7th, 2024 Credit River City Council meeting. We'll begin with amending or approving the agenda. Does anybody have any amendments to the agenda? I do have one. I do want to add 7.8 election administration. If there are no more, I'd take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Leroy. So I've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the one noted change. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on to Sheriff's Report. Deputy Pearson, good evening. It's been a while.
It had. I apologize about that. We had some. Someone not being able to come fill in for us, so. I'm here, so I've got 2 months worth of information for you. You're just gonna slide off. They kind of mimic each other. Our, as usual, our kind of number one, our alarms and medicals kind of go hand in hand. There has been a slight uptick, call it metro-wide, of some motor vehicle tamperings going on. A few car thefts. We have not had any here, but Dakota County has been experiencing a little bit more uptick of that. So it's just kind of a friendly reminder to lock your vehicles at night, keep key fobs not in the center console for the fancy push button vehicles. So we had here in May, we actually had 2 separate occurrences. One up by the Murphy Lake area, had 3 vehicles broken into. Then we also had one down in the territory of vehicle going through late in the evening and entering vehicles that were unlocked. We have been able to, for the Murphy Lake area, we've been able to track that down with other counties, and there are actually charges pending for some suspects. So we were able to track it down a little bit more and get somewhere with it. So really, that's kind of to the point. There's not a whole lot outside of what our normal calls are. We do have our 3rd annual safety day coming up here August 8th. We'll have more information coming out about it, but we've got that scheduled again.
Is that the day after Nights Unite?
Saturday, I'm sorry, the 10th.
Okay.
From 11 to 2 o'clock, it'll be at Cleary Lake again. We have started reaching back out to all the agencies that have come out in the past. So we're gonna get in alignment with the helicopter, the ambulance, fire. We will have our drone team there. The jail will be there with their portable jail cell again that kids all seem to get a really good kick out of. So working on a food truck again. So we'll trying to grow it a little bit more from what it was again last year. And as we have information, we'll get it over to you so you can get it out on your website.
Perfect.
So
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of people there last year. It was a good turnout.
yes, it was. It was. So one final thing, as obviously Credit River has 2 deputies that are working 7 days a week. If you have things that are going on, don't be afraid to call the sheriff's office, call dispatch and report something. It's a lot easier for us to help, whether it's traffic complaints, littering, noise complaints, anything like that. If we actually have that information coming into us. We appreciate running into people driving through neighborhoods and sharing that with us, but it's a little bit easier when we get dispatched to it. We can gather some information. I can send a link, to you, so you can send me video footage or anything that pertains to the call. So we're here to serve you guys. So feel free, as you have things that are coming in, let us know. We'll come out and help manage it and deal with it as best that we can.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Thank you, John. Council members, any questions or comments for Deputy Pearson? No. No? No? Be good. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Be safe out there. All right, next up, consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requested an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, the second and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight on the consent agenda, we've got the June 3rd, 2024 city council meeting minutes. We have the approved resolution 2024-24, accepting infrastructure improvements and releasing the financial security for Lake Estates. Approving a memorandum of agreement for the easement on 170th Street East. Approval of the 2024 ditch mowing quote. And approval of the resignation of the election administrator. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody would like to remove and consider separately? Hearing none, I would take a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Jay. So I've got a motion and a second to approve consent agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics. The council may discuss but will not take formal action on public forum presentations. Tonight, we've got, looks like Amy Byrne, how do you? Byrne, okay.
Right. Good afternoon, council. My name is Amy Byrne. I am the attorney for South Passage regarding the South Passage Septic District. I want to first say thank you to the city administrator and city attorney for their time conducting multiple meetings over the last 2 weeks to determine where the Monterey Heights and South Passage districts are at. While we're not quite at the finish line, I am hopeful that we can work towards a resolution in the coming months or month. The reason for this is because many of the items you'll see on today's agenda are intertwined. We can't quite determine what South Passage's rate can be if we can't determine what exactly South Passage is responsible for. There's still fundamental questions regarding the sand filter, now the media filter project, and South Passage's separation from Monterey Heights. I'm happy to go into this if there is time, but for now, I'll just note that is in the works. In short, I'm here to urge the council not to take any action regarding the South Passage septic system pending these discussions. South Passage has not agreed to any rate increase. From reviewing the agenda today, the council is being asked for input on South Passage paying Monterey Heights repaying Monterey Heights and paying interest to Monterey Heights as a result of the overpayment. The city is responsible for managing the districts of Monterey Heights and South Passage. It would be unreasonable for the city to now vote and force South Passage to pay interest to Monterey Heights when the city was administratively responsible for this financial combination and ensuring that South Passage has sufficient reserves. So South Passage should not be penalized for any city error. We need to continue these discussions and make sure that we can come to a reasonable and fair conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I've got Bruce Wise.
Hi, Bruce Wise, 7601 169th Street East. And it might seem like I'm going to bounce all over, but I think the gist of it is probably parks. And what came to mind was when the Yellowstone development was walked through in a meeting, and I saw the little triangle off to the side with a path coming from the road that might have to be maintained, and thought, I think that the alternative proposed was the developers would give an amount as opposed to that property, and they'd figure out how to absorb that property within the development. And so I looked up ordinances because it didn't seem like it was something that was allowed. But I did look at some ordinances and found a couple that state, and I won't read them, but I can email them to you, but they state in general, and I'll just read one to you because they're in a couple different places. 95510 statutory authorization, findings of fact and statement of purpose. Statutory authorization. Minnesota statute section blah, 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 provides that municipal subdivision regulations may require that a reasonable portion of any proposed subdivision be dedicated to the public or preserved for conservation purposes or for public use as parks, playgrounds, trails, wetlands, or open space, and that the municipality may alternatively accept an equivalent amount of cash based upon the undeveloped land value. So I'm thinking about that and looking at other of the parks that are in the high density areas of the city. I also rolled back to the discussion about vision statements for both the city and the parks. Mission statement, vision, and thought that we should probably accelerate the development of those, because I would think that those could be used as a comparison against a development to say, does this development's proposals for parks match what we're looking for our vision for parks? Does the development match the vision statement for our city that we've created, and use that as a guidelines to say, no, go back to the drawing board, or you're on the right path. And then my final one, I do like to jump all over, is if we're looking at purchasing land, it does state, that you can use it to purchase land or park equipment. That a thought might be, in the, keep it in your thought process, that I didn't see in the proposal that there is any like a park as part of the whole creating a new city government area and facilities. That we could dedicate part of whatever land is purchased, if that's the way we go, and create a park and use funds that have been gathered from developments to help fund the purchase of a little bit additional acreage. If you got a 20-acre parcel, you only need 15 or something like that. Maybe you use parkland to help purchase that 20 acres and create a city park right there. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else for open forum tonight? Seeing none, we'll close open forum. No presentations tonight, no public hearings. We'll move into general business. General business number 1, summary of the June 3rd, 2024 closed session. At its meeting on June 3rd, 2024, the city council went into closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.05 subdivision 3A to evaluate the performance of city administrator Reynolds. The council is required to summarize its conclusions regarding the evaluation at its next open meeting. The annual performance evaluation was attended by Administrator Reynolds, the mayor, council members Zanto, Schomer, Soderbach, Markert, and city attorney Mikkel. A majority of the council concluded that Ms. Reynolds' employment should be terminated. It was determined that the mayor and city council, or city attorney, and possibly one or more council members should try to negotiate a separation agreement with Ms. Reynolds to put on the agenda for the June 17th, 24 city council meeting, which is tonight. So that being the summary of the closed session from the last meeting. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept the summary.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay.
Second
by Markert. So I've got a motion and a second to accept the summary of the June 3rd, 2024 closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, then, as part of that same item, I'm going to look for a motion to amend the agenda and add the item to consider the separation agreement.
I'd like to make that motion to amend the agenda to add separation agreement 7.1.1.
I'll second.
Perfect. Second by Jay Soderbach. So I've got a motion and a second to amend the agenda to add the item to consider the separation agreement for item 7.1.1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, then, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the separation agreement that was previously considered by the city attorney and a committee of the council.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
I'll take Jay on that one. So I've got a motion and a second to approve the separation agreement with City Administrator Reynolds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Then I want to, at this point, that separation agreement has become public. That was added to the packet in the back of the room. Also, at this point, I would like to request a motion to amend the agenda again and add an item considering appointing, one or two council members to interview interim administrator candidates as soon as possible.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Jay. So I've got a motion and a second to amend the agenda to consider appointing one or two council members to interview the interim administrator candidates as soon as possible. So with that discussion, Peter, do you have a summary that you want to add to that part of this? Please hold that. There you go. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, at the mayor's direction and with Administrator Reynolds' permission for me to speak discreetly with potential candidates, I did look at a list that the League of Minnesota Cities maintains of potential administrator candidates, as well as reach out to a couple of other folks that we know just because we know. And so we have a couple of names for the council to meet with as soon as possible. If the mayor and another council member, or whoever the council delegates to start this process, we can make the connection for you as soon as you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. With that, I'm happy to participate in that. Is there somebody else that would like to be a part of that process? To have some time here, at least, be able to do some probably remote interviews or discussions.
I'd be willing to be on that committee to search for the interim administrator if the council wants me to. I have plenty of time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Jay.
could I also request that we possibly reach out to the former applicants and see if any are interested?
I think probably, Jay, the fastest way for us getting somebody to sit in temporarily would be to appoint an interim. And then we can consider a process for a more permanent after that.
That's fine.
But I think we could be able to have this, if we have an opportunity to have a special council meeting before the next one if we need to. But I think we need to get that process moving, given we've got elections coming up. A bunch of other things and irons in the fire right now that need to be resolved.
So what's the process then? If the two of you are doing that, what would the rest of the council be able to see before that next special council meeting?
Mr. Mayor, Council, if you would like me to answer the question, the process would be if the delegated council members have a viable candidate they'd like to bring to council, we'd recommend putting it on the agenda as soon as possible. And if they're ready sooner, even by special meeting,
Yes.
if the candidates are ready, and as soon as we have a special meeting notice, we can circulate to the council and the applicant's information and the public packet, the public portion of applicants' information.
Realistically, Peter, what's the time frame here? I mean, can we do it this week? Do you think we could find someone and hire someone this week? Or is it probably next week? If we
Mr. Mayor, Council, the interviews can happen, I think, this week for sure, and maybe as soon as in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the applicant's appetite is for taking the assignment or taking the assignment immediately.
Okay.
So that's all yet to be determined, and we have more names we can keep going down and digging if none of this works.
And
So you just have names. You don't have an idea of anything other than names.
Yeah.
I have more than that. If I may, I've spoken with them. I spoke with several, explained our interest in an interim, told them a little bit about the city, asked if they'd be willing to meet. After talking with several, I did find a couple that are willing to meet with you.
Okay.
And so we've started the process. It's not a blind date, so to speak, of a first meeting. But that's as far as we've got.
Plus, we also considered that if we were to have a special meeting, we'd have to notice it, and there's notice requirements of that as well, so. You know, that also takes the sets a timeline a little bit.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the special meeting notice is 3 days and the special meeting would not take place on a weekend.
Right. Okay. With that, any other questions, comments?
No.
Then I would take a motion to appoint myself and Councilmember Markert to a committee to interview interim administrator candidates. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Leroy. We have a motion and a second to appoint Mayor Costick and Councilmember Markert to a committee to interview interim and city administrator candidates and report back to the council. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right. Next item, consider interim finance director assistance. So considering that our finance director is on a leave of absence for the foreseeable future, just more of an information point at this time. I have reached out and talked to our audit firm Hebdo to see if they have any services that they could provide on that. I've got no we've gone back and forth with some questions and stuff, but I've got no proposal yet. So this is more information that we're working on, trying to get a proposal to see if we have some place to at least get that piece filled in the interim piece. So more information than anything, more to come on that. Yes, they were.
And I've spoken to Sarah, our deputy treasurer, and she had taken a new job, so she really didn't have any time anymore to work, but she said she would make some time to come back and possibly help at night or on Saturday or something. So,
Yeah, perfect.
Do we need to make any motion to have Sarah do that? Because I'm all in favor of that, so we have somebody in here.
Well, she's already appointed,
she's still
so
appointed.
Oh, she's appointed, okay.
yeah.
And another question for our city attorney. So there's not much I can do in terms of helping out with Dominique's work in the interim without stepping down from city council. Like I can't do filing, I can't answer phones, I can't help with the budget, preparing the, starting out, just putting templates together for the budget. I can't do any of those things. Is that correct? And for free, by the way, volunteer.
Understood. Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Marker. The ability, the talent and the willingness to do it for free are all awesome. The roadblock we run into is a doctrine in the law called incompatible offices. And as you alluded to it, first of all, to become finance director, you would absolutely have to step down as a council member. And so with the council not appointing you to be finance director, but instead you doing some volunteer work, the question is, when does it cross the line from ministerial work that's not an office of the city to doing the work of an office of the city, which would put your seat in jeopardy? It's not up to me or the council. It's somebody takes a position that you're wearing two hats. The law is an automatic resignation of the first office and you keep the second office. In my judgment, working on the budget is a director level thing to be doing. Answering phones depends on what the phone call is and what you are, what you're doing in that call. So it's hard to give like a globally accurate answer to all the hypothetical scenarios, but I can lay out the risk and understand the more it's like the office of the director, the more your position on the council is at jeopardy. And from the time that you've started doing that, every vote that you take on this council now is open to question. And to the extent it's unanimous, it means nothing. But if your vote was required to make a measure succeed or fail, your vote, we have to eliminate from the calculation later. And so all sorts of ugly things for the whole city, and not just for your seat, if we get that wrong.
All right. So there's no leeway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Abe?
Yeah, I've got a question. Going to Abdo, since they're our auditor, aren't we getting a little bit of hot
Well,
challenge?
I thought the same thing, Abe, but remember they came in, they have a wall. Their financial services side of the wall came in and actually did some year-end accounting work for us. So I think that they're allowed to do that. The audit side can't. And just so you know, I dealt with that all the time with our auditors. They had another arm that helped us with projects and things of that nature, consulting types of work.
Yeah, it still has the perception that.
Right, it has a perception,
Concern.
but
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
depending on how long this,
Well, and that's I mean, that would be the natural next step, right? Is we need to make sure that we cover the things that we need to cover, pay the bills.
Right.
Start a budget, start
Answer
stuff like
reports.
that. The next step is for us to consider a process on recruitment and hiring somebody new, right? So I don't know that we were prepared for that part yet.
Yeah.
My goal is just to bring this up as information to say I'm working on an interim solution. I hope to have a proposal for our next council meeting. That was my goal of putting it on the agenda tonight, just to make sure that we're all in sync, that there's a process happening to recover from that one. Leroy.
Mr. Mayor, and I think by talking to Abdul, since they are auditors and stuff, and leg up, help them with the budget and things, and they're on the other side of it. So. It's my.
Mr. Mayor, are we set for payroll right now and AR and AP? I mean,
So we still have our part-time accounting clerk or tech, Donna. She was on PTO here for a little bit. It won't be back until tomorrow, but we need to get in touch with her and just make sure that everything's all good on that end. So,
okay,
yeah,
so the bills will get paid, the
Yep.
bills will go out.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Payroll. Yep.
And then, Mr. Mayor, I got it.
Yeah.
Someone here to answer phones then besides our junior planner? Is that something?
Well. That could technically probably be considered part of the clerk's role.
Okay,
You can take your pick, Bill. What do you want? Do you want to be the finance director? or the
well,
clerk?
then I'm gonna make that. Then we need to hire someone to come in here and sit down, right? And just sit here. I'm just trying to figure out what can we do in the interim? I mean,
Mr. Mayor,
we gotta run the city. Police the operation.
could I suggest we maybe look at part-time, temporary staffing?
Well, let's,
Is
I'll
that
tell you what,
something
how about
probably use
let's,
For other things.
why don't we move on to the clerk, the next item on the agenda, and then, because
Right.
I don't think that we're gonna find, we don't look for the finance director to be the phone answering
Right.
piece of it, right? So let's take that as part of the discussion on the clerk position,
That's fine.
and then we'll,
Yep.
All right. So we're good with the, again, just info and anyways, I hope to have a proposal at the next meeting. 7.3, consider advertising to hire a city clerk. This is a position that we've had open for a while. We did have some candidates in the past that we got to the point of making an offer and they chose to move on to their last position, which offered them a renewal of their contract. And we have not opened it since. So I guess what I would like to recommend is that we open that position again, start advertising for it, take applications. In the meantime, as we're working down the path of interim administrator, hopefully these two line up where we're hiring both at similar times, or at least, getting close where we can then recover and get back to, our staff with elections coming up. The clerk position is going to be pretty important. Early voting starts the end of this month. So,
I'm good with that. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know how many applicants we had for the city clerk and can we go back to the ones that we didn't choose and at least look at those applications rather than start all over again?
so my memory serves me is that we had 3 applicants, 2 were not appropriate for the position and one was.
In whose opinion though, they were not appropriate? Can we look at?
That was,
can
we
at
can
least-
go back and look.
Can we at least look
yeah,
at them?
Yep.
Yeah. We still have to,
Because
open- we still have to open the position again.
Oh, that's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine, because there's a whole list of things that we want that person to be able to do, but
Right.
we're kind of like in a pinch right now and.
I guess the one thing that as we're talking about that, one thing that I, hope would desire qualifications and I don't know that it's in the job, advertisement as is, but I'd like to see somebody that has some marketing skills to be able to.
Yeah.
You do website and do
Yeah.
our communications, our social. I mean, I would value that pretty highly in a clerk candidate.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we had it as 18 hours a week or something like, or no, that was, I don't even know that the description had an hourly limit on it, but to me, that's something that we just struggle to find time to have somebody maintain regularly enough that even if they work a few extra hours a week to update some of that stuff, I think that'd be important.
Mhm. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it does say review city's website, keep content up to date, but I think we
Okay.
could include things of, wanting some previous experience in communications or something.
Yeah, desired qualifications,
Yeah.
right?
And I think we need to look at our minimum qualifications too. We have an associate's degree in business administration. Why not just lower that down to a 2 years relevant vocational training
Yeah.
or 4 years of, experience or
right.
something like that, and we can.
Right.
I know there's some people that are really exact and they have to hit every one of those before
Yeah.
they apply, and there's others that are open, but I hate to
Overlook something.
overlook someone because they
Yeah.
don't have that
Correct.
necessary degree.
Yeah, okay.
And this,
Abe, if you don't mind, I mean, I don't have time to post that tonight, but I hope to post it sometime this week. If you had any notes on that, just
I do.
forward them my way.
Yep.
I'll add them to that.
where will this be posted, Mr. Mayor?
So my hope is to post it on our website. The League of Minnesota Cities has a job application, job advertising section on their website where a lot of people go to look for stuff in that. Beyond that,
Can we put it on a regular job site, Indeed or something like that, so we get more applicants? And
We can look at that.
I heard that, well, we are gonna get a ton of them. I'd be happy to volunteer my time and weed through them all. Well, otherwise, we're only gonna get 3 again. That's all we got. And I'd rather get more and weed them out.
Mhm.
You gotta believe that there's some people that can do this that haven't worked in the city government before.
sure.
Gotta check and see if you can do that, Bill. Can Bill do that? Leave him out.
I'm just weeding out. Can you do that?
Mr. Mayor. Bill's the weeder. All right.
All right, Councilmember Sutterbach.
Could I suggest also be using Monster possibly or similar internet?
We can look at some job sites.
I think those
Mhm.
past experience they pretty.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. So, in that, I would take a motion to approve advertising to hire a city clerk.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second,
Thank you, Abe. So I've got a motion and a second to approve the advertising to hire a city clerk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Casey Addition patching. Engineer Nelson, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for this item, I really put it on here for council direction. The roads in the Casey addition have kind of blown up this spring. Particularly Fleming Circle, Fleming Road, Fleming Lane, that kind of looped in there. And we're experiencing the really bad surface delamination that we previously experienced on John Deere and other portions of the neighborhood. So really, just looking for some direction. We could handle it one of 2 ways. The first way being we obtain a quote similar to like we did in Country Court. And try to do an overlay on the entire stretch of bad road. That would probably be that loop and utilize our patching budget for that. The second alternative would be to schedule the roads this year in our capital improvement plan and kind of complete the entire neighborhood in 2025 as a capital improvement project. So just looking for some direction on if the council wants assistance with that, and if so, what is your direction?
Sure. Thank you, Shane. Council members, questions, comments?
Yeah.
I'll take Jay first.
So we just went through and kind of saved the roads in Country Court the last 2 years. And we're not actually doing a reconstruct or rebuild or overlays. True overlays in that. And I thought that Casey was kind of considered about the same situation. with, you know, with and sewer,
Mhm.
everything else, or we wanna do kind of a major overhaul of their streets and then tear it up, or are we looking at an assessment project, or are we looking at more of a repair?
Well, I think the two solutions, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, but the two solutions you provided were one of each of what you suggested, right? One, the capital improvement project would be an assessment overlay, just like we're doing on Pebble Brook, Whitewood,
Right.
and our West Side Drive this year and others. And then the other one would be, more that temporary, patching type of overlay, a thinner one that, again, I think the timeline might be important in this because
That's not very.
the difference in the timeline of the country court is that's, in planning stages already. We don't have a timeline yet for Casey's edition.
Yeah.
Leroy, you had something.
I just wanted to say that, if we're gonna do the inch overlay on it, we need to patch the potholes and do this.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we need to patch the potholes this year and possibly go in and do a mill on it and overlay. So
Mhm.
either way, we need the potholes patched.
Yeah. Agreed.
The potholes were patched though in country court, weren't they, before they did
Yeah.
the patching?
Yep.
And that can all be done in 1 year.
Yeah, Counselor Barker, yeah, that's correct. But I was just gonna add for like the Fleming Circle, Fleming Lane Loop.
Yeah.
Most of those roads are, and there's so much delamination that we can't effectively patch it without just overlaying the
Right.
entire.
Yeah.
So,
Right. You'd probably fill some of the deeper ones in before you overlaid it a little bit, but
right.
yeah. Is that the delamination you think, Shane, back from the problem we had with that old seal coat? The kind of that,
We're still waiting for, so. I don't remember what the exact number is, but tens of millions, if not more, goes into research every year. The local road research board receives funding from the state from the portion of our gas tax money and. So we're still waiting for research on what this has caused, the delamination or all the city engineers have a theory that we think it's tied to the seal coating. And it's almost creating such a good barrier that when moisture gets trapped underneath the barrier. And then, the freeze thaw, that's what's blowing it out. So it hasn't been proven, but it's a
yeah,
pretty widely accepted theory.
right. Which is again why we've been doing the microsurfacing lately. To try
Correct.
to not tear up our roads by maintaining them.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The last thing you want to do is spend money maintaining your roads, thinking you're adding life and find out that it's actually causing a problem.
Yep. Okay, so council members, I guess looking for direction. I guess, Shane, let me ask you this, I'd be interested to understand the cost both ways. What would be, to do a feasibility, just a quick one to understand what it would cost for the overlay in our CIP as part of a 429 project versus if we just were to overlay those last two. And clearly it's going to be a lot less overall of a project to do the overlay, the thin overlay temporary. Would that, I guess that leads me into another question of what do we think the timeline of an overlay like those temporary patches would last? Is that a 10-year? Maybe?
I mean, I guess so. So the ideal, Mr. Mayor, the ideal time, at least what we've been shooting for is to schedule an overlay before we have major problems and really focus on the life extending part of that structural improvement rather than being reactive to a problem. And so, and the research that's out there too is that an overlay extends the road by 10 years. But that's again, that's a full overlay, which is, talking an inch and a half between or an inch. It's not a big difference in thickness. Really what's harder to evaluate, I guess, is the condition of the pavement that you're overlaying on. I mean, the reason that we're seeing delamination and things happen is the pavement's dry, it's brittle. we've lost a lot of the oil content. And, it's just kind of nearing the end of its life, so, the other thing I should mention, so if we talk about doing the overlay in 2025 as kind of a CIP project, we would run into a little bit of a complication because we've already done a large portion of John Deere Drive. All the way from 170th Street, south quite a ways and over a few different years. And I don't think it would make sense to overlay that section again, so we'd have a part of the neighborhood that would be excluded from the overlay. So that'd be one challenge with the CIP project, if we were to look at it more as a temporary repair. I think what we do in that scenario is do what we can this year, hopefully we can get all Fleming Circle, Fleming Lane completed. And then just do a little bit of spot patching, pothole patching. There's a few potholes that are deeper, that won't be that much to fill, and then over the next couple years, we could finish that neighborhood out by doing in segments at a time that, maybe cost 60 or 70,000 as they need. So,
Well, how many years does it give us if we do the cheap alternative? If we do something this year? And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold you to it. Is it 3? Is it 1 year?
Shane's gonna put his
right,
fortune telling hat on and buy some lottery tickets as well.
right, yeah.
It's less than 10.
Councilmember Margaret, I wish there was a formula for that, but there's not. In our experience, we've done this type of overlay on roads in this kind of condition.
Yeah.
And we've gotten at least 10 years.
Okay.
Which all the books and research manuals say you shouldn't get, because 10 years is what you should get.
Yeah.
The roads are in good condition.
Yeah,
What we're finding is if we overlay the roads that are already in good condition, we're getting longer than 10 years, so.
And we have, probably 70,000 or so in our, budget. Yeah,
That's correct.
patching.
That's unassigned right now?
yeah.
That's correct.
Shane, one other question about considering a CIP project. Off the top of your head, do we have other overlays scheduled for next year right now?
We do have Judicial Road, I believe, is scheduled for next
Okay.
year. That's a shared project with the city of Lakeville.
Lakeville probably runs that project though. Right?
Yeah, under our JPA.
So then we would be bidding this project by itself then if we're to do in the CIP.
That's correct.
So it probably doesn't fare that well then.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the other side of it, I think. Wouldn't want for us to be getting into a relay, which has an assessment project component to it. And then turn around and tear up the street and then reassess before they finish paying for the
Agreed.
first one. And I think they might think that, they'll look at the street as it's not that bad. And I think that just opens, doors. It's not fair to the neighbors.
The timing is hard, Jay, right? So I mean, that is the hard part, is the timing, right? Because we don't have that one in any kind of planning stages yet. For any major capital improvement project. Which I think that's kind of the point to what I'm asking the question. I'm trying to figure out what gets us to that, what's gonna extend us out to that point, right?
Right.
Guess if we had all had a crystal ball 10 years ago, we'd have done an whole overlay project 10 years ago. And we probably wouldn't be having this discussion today. That's hard, right? We don't have that. We all in crystal balls, we'd be buying lottery tickets.
She'll start popping apart in 5 years.
I know. Well, there's that too. I guess my recommendation would be is let's get some quotes on doing the 1-inch overlay
Yep.
this year. See if we can come in under budget.
Yes.
And try to find some relief for that. That is a pretty tough situation back there. Sorry, Jay, I cut you off.
Yeah, I would say also in Country Court, I think the last 2 years, a lot of neighbors are very happy
Mhm.
over that, getting that taken care of.
Yeah.
And
Right.
It seems to be working,
Yeah,
so,
Yeah.
there was some work that was done a few years back, and, over 3 different times, I think.
Mhm.
pretty much handled most of the bad parts of it.
Yeah.
And I would say just looking at it, we probably will get 10 years out of it
Mhm.
if we're not.
Yeah,
Surrender.
but I think
You could
the,
catch.
the hiccup's gonna be is, these utility contractors that come through and do, work along there, and I think we have to be careful that I hear rumors of New Barrow wanting to do fiber in that neighborhood next year.
Which one?
Casey's,
Cases.
yeah.
Well,
So if that's the case, we just have to be careful on when they're done, it better look like it did before they started.
But in their defense, we do have a
Franchise
We have
agreement.
a franchise agreement, but it
Agreement
doesn't-
with
the-
them
the
and
agreement doesn't
they-
say they can tear the roads.
No, I know, but they do good work and they've always
Yeah, they didn't tear up our roads when they did that.
taken
Yeah.
much better than a couple others that I won't name.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, to that point, I mean, that is one of the reasons that we have our right-of-way permit process.
Yep.
Such that we can track, the companies that are doing the work, and in fact, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, Centerpoint was in doing some gas main work in the Casey additions. And damaged the road, it was pretty evident that it was from their contractor, and we were able to require them to correct that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so, just to restate it, is everybody comfortable then directing the engineer to, go out for quotes on, thin overlay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll bring those back for your consideration.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane, appreciate it. Next up on the agenda, Monterey Heights, and South Passage, Sport and Service Districts. This was in your packet, the presentation was in there. I apologize. I
Yeah.
was not prepared to display the presentation myself today. But I guess my question, if you guys all read the options on there, any thoughts on that?
Make it back.
I know that we had the attorney that represents one of those groups here tonight asking for no action, that the residents would like some more time to sort some of this out. One piece that does concern me about continuing to do that is that each time we do that, it does make that piece higher, right?
Understood, but then again, it's their attorney telling us to hold off on making any decision. And they understand that. I would assume they understand that, Chris, that it's just gonna make the pain bigger later. But
Mhm.
my preference is not doing anything until we're ready to do something. Especially with no staff to work on this right now, or,
Well, that's the other piece that worries me about delaying the
well,
rate change.
right, well, who's gonna do the rate change right now?
Well, that would be our accounting tech.
Right.
Again, I'm just throwing that out there for discussion.
Sure.
I'm just worried that we keep pushing it down the road and we're gonna struggle to make the budget meet by the end of the year.
I would like to see some more detail on it too. And I don't know if we're gonna get it done
Mhm.
right now. I definitely want to see some more detail. So this,
Right.
so,
I'm open to tabling it if you guys wanna table it, but,
I think we'd have to consider when we're tabling it too,
yeah.
so. I definitely think we should.
Peter, what do you think?
Sign, I shouldn't speak on this.
Oh, go ahead. You can only charge half rates if it doesn't work.
Mr. Mayor and council, like the mayor, I'm not in a position to present on this subject tonight, but I was in meetings with Ms. Reynolds and the council for the HOA. And of the things that can be delayed for some time, and if South Passage wants it, and maybe they're the ones that are gonna feel that,
Mhm.
that's okay. The one point that Kathy made was not this meeting, but the next meeting, July 1, was probably the deadline to make a decision on a bond issue.
Hmm.
And that's the only thing I have to contribute to this. Other than that, I think, as Councilmember Margaret said, if they are interested in delay, they know that this is really about their financial consequences. I don't see anything from the legal perspective to contribute to the conversation.
Perfect, thank you. We've got a different order, Peter, so. Okay. Now you can talk in stereo. Okay. Abe, you look like you have some thought there. You shake, you look
It's
on your
just-
face as you're ready to.
It's a really tough spot, right?
Mhm.
I do empathize and I do think they wanna wait and get more information and get prepared. I think we allow that. It's a significant
Mhm.
challenge.
Yep. Okay. So then, what I'm hearing is that, somebody's ready to make a motion to table this item.
I will.
And
Motion.
Second,
so let's table it until, our July meeting for now. And if necessary, we can, push it again if we need to. But we do need to make some sort of decision on bonding at the next meeting, so we gotta have some sort of
Say
action.
or
July. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I got a motion by Leroy, a second by Abe to table the subject till the July 1st meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Before you close it, who's gonna lead this though? Between now and July. I'm concerned that nothing's gonna happen until we get somebody in place, so,
I don't disagree. I'm hoping that we can
okay.
sort of have some, maybe.
So Abdo would be the one leading it though?
Bill, right now, I can't answer that, but if we.
Okay.
Agree to table it and we have some sort of interim solution in between, then we can get somebody working on that.
Okay,
I just want to get that piece bumped out for now and
okay.
try to step back, so. I'm okay with that. Yeah. All right, sorry, I'll call the vote again. I have a motion by Leroy, a second by Abe. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Discuss citizen committee bylaws. Abe.
yeah, during our last council meeting, there was a couple of topics brought up, specifically around citizen advisory committees. And I put together, the request was that I would go back and put together a potential bylaws to discuss for this meeting. In the packet, I believe, hold it up, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's there. What I tried to do is take a little bit more of a long-term approach and a shorter term. The government center advisories in here, but creation of the special city council, city advisory board with the bylaws of how to enact them, how to create them, and then going into more of the city, government city citizens, sorry, government center citizen advisory committee. There was the main point was allowing the citizens really to run that advisory committee. The thought is having the council create the committee, have the council ask for staff to advertise for it, have a application process, and then council actually selects the members. And then past that, we would have 2 members of the council sit on that that citizen advisory committee. But not being chair or vice chair. And allowing staff to also be in there, but not having the agenda created by council or staff. There was one note that was put in there. I did say it's not under open meeting law. It is under open meeting law, so we would have to do that. But that was the gist of it. It's making sure that we could have it citizen run. And the council would only be, the mainstay of it was we would actually appoint the advisory committee. Pass that one away.
Okay. Council members, comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, the purpose of the council appointing from applicants is to make sure that we can ensure that we have a broad reach of members of the committee. So that they're throughout the city, and rather than just a single interest group or anything else. And
And I think, everything that we've got here, I'm quite for. I think it's pretty well put together.
One question I do have under the compensation piece of this. Peter, some of this I might ask you to help me with that, section 4. Since we already have an appointed planning commission that they do receive a stipend. Would that same thing apply to this as well, or are we okay with this being a volunteer group?
Mr. Mayor, council, the item is on the agenda for discussion tonight, and
Yeah.
so we can have something finalized at the next meeting, but I'll give you my off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's all I'm
It's like
asking for.
75% correct. I think it's fine for it to be all volunteer
Okay.
committee, and what I saw in that we need to be careful about is the no additional compensation for staff members. This needs to be a committee that meets during regular business hours then for staff.
Right. The other one too, because also I would suggest we need to review our ordinance about council pay as well. Because I kind of think our council ordinance pay talks about if you're appointed to a committee, that allows for the stipend at that point. So I'm just looking for legal to make sure we're in compliance with our ordinances and that, you know,
The thought,
whether or not you actually put in that you attended that meeting is up to you guys, but I just want to make sure that we're in compliance with our.
yeah, and
ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, the thought behind that was because it's a project specific, you know, advisory committee, it's different than the planning commission. That's
Sure.
a little bit more,
Yeah,
right? This is one thing I left out, it is up to a year, right? So if this building continued on, we would have to reappoint year after year.
mhm.
Well, I think we've got, that's laid out in that, is that it is like a 1-year term,
Yeah,
and then it just, if people re-up for it, like any other. For shorter special project things, or, you have a term.
well, I would, then I guess I suggest that we allow Peter to review it for legal compliance and then we can have this on a future agenda for approval.
When we put it on the next one.
If we're ready, yeah.
Yeah, let's get it done.
Yeah.
This, I think staff already comes to meetings after business hours. I mean, I think we were thinking that would be the city administrator that would be attending these things, and they don't get any extra pay to attend those meetings after hours. And it's probably easier to get citizens involved if it's after business hours.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Market, that's an excellent point, and the question would be which staff is.
Yeah.
City
Yeah.
administrator's contract anticipates that and they can flex their hours.
Yeah.
Other staff members maybe.
All right, so we just need to.
That's what it is.
So I think we just have to
Given the
be,
language.
make sure that we are respectful of any of, you know, especially like hourly staff time. You know, if you were to bring in a planner or something like that. Or,
Or even putting under 4.3, the staff members, maybe depending on job role.
yeah.
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 Or, I mean, I guess you could, that could be it, the staff member compensation is subject to their
Yeah.
individual pay plan or individual job description or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So like if it, for whatever reason, it say Matt, right, our planner that's hourly was requested to be at one of these. He would get his normal hourly wage to be that.
I'm just
Right.
thinking along the line of this particular committee that we're discussing, that is that if we were to get a clerk or somebody that has some marketing skills, you know, then I think it might be prudent to have them attend a couple of those meetings in order to be able to help provide the marketing with the aspect of that.
Yeah, and again, that would be an hourly position, so then
Yeah.
we would have to have it say then, you know, persuade to their particular job compensation. Okay. Any other comments on that?
So, yeah, I love it. It's great. The vision statement, well, when will that get on one of these committees then? Is that, because we're talking about the government center?
Do you want to go right in? Other
I mean, we created,
Oh, is it the other one is?
well, the other one, the second one was the special project, so it was basically a
Okay.
formation of it, so we could call for a vision statement, city advisory board.
Okay.
too.
I'd like to get going on that one too,
Well, what?
but
you know,
I know we don't have any staff right now. And
That's what I'm
that
saying, is
concerns
be
me even
careful.
about this one.
Let's be careful how much we throw on
I
right
know,
immediately. I'm not against doing it at some point, but let's maybe recover from some of our staff shortages before we take on too much.
I'm just
Would be
concerned
my
that we're
recommendation.
putting the cart before the horse. My opinion is we need the vision statement and what we want to do with our city before we get into what type of government center we want for our city. But that's my,
As well as our budget. So it's important to get there.
so,
I agree.
so
Well, we have the ground rules here, so now we can.
I'll volunteer to draft up the vision statement one too.
all right.
Okay.
Shane, if you, I don't think we need anything more from you, so if you wanna start your way back home, one welcome to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are just hereby dismissed for the evening. All right. Let's move on to 7.7, establishment of a litigation committee. Attorney, hi, Jason. So, I'll take this one, but, so we do have, and we're gonna be going into, closed meeting later on tonight to discuss the ongoing litigation. There are some pieces of that where we would like to have a committee of 2 council members, participate in some discussion over the mediation piece of it. I've been a part of the first segment of that. I'd like to have somebody else volunteer or be appointed to joining that, because I think we have some, and we'll hear more about that later tonight. During our closed session about what the needs in that section are, so. Be happy to have somebody else volunteer to okay. Sounds good. So with that, I would appreciate a motion to establish a litigation committee of myself as mayor and Councilmember Soderbach.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Abe.
Seconded.
And Leroy. So I've got a motion and a second to establish a litigation committee of Mayor Costick and Councilmember Soderbach. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Election administration. So back to staff shortages at this time. We've got early voting starting the end of this month, so the end of next week for the primary. I did have a conversation with Julie Nelson, Scott County election administrator. They are willing to do the early voting for the primary at the county shop. It's within the legal boundaries of the election.
Good.
So that is fine. That gets us some breathing room for that piece of it, so that we don't have to have that here and staff it here. So at least that one piece will be able to have some breathing. We still will have to do the primary in our precincts. And then we'll have to do our normal early voting for the general election following that. So
That saves us about what, 40 days from roughly?
yes, I don't have the calendar, the election calendar.
And 3 votes.
Yeah, 3 votes.
So, and it's, during my conversation with Julie, during my conversation with Julie, I said, well, I mean, you really think primary, 25% of the voters vote. And really, a very small percentage of that early vote, right? So to your point, it really is only, probably a handful at best. So if you guys are all right with that, I will, one of the things that we will have to do is we'll have to post on our website. We'll have to put some posting out front out here so that people know to.
Secretary of State site still has us there for early voting, so we'll have to make sure that's taken off then.
Yep.
Okay.
Leroy.
One other thing to that, we didn't have a lot of residents said they weren't sure where to go vote for our second site. I would like to contact Safety Sign and see what blinking
Mhm.
sign would cost to put out on the side of the road.
Just
Over
on
here,
voting days?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the second precinct over here. So I'll get a price
Quote on that.
from them, yeah, for a portable sign, electronic.
It's a good idea. We weren't marked well enough.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had in the election piece.
It's good news.
Yeah, well, it gives us some breathing room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Staff and council member reports. Does anybody have anything tonight?
No, we had a great, other than we had a great, community park citizen session or whatever, it was like 35 people. So roughly double the number of people I think that attended last year. They were very I got compliments about the roads. The kids love the roads now too up there because they're paved a little bit better. So, I thought it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It was a good night. It was nice out that
Mhm.
night. Good discussion. Yep.
At scale, last Friday, they had some of the our house rep and senators kind of gave a legislative update on what's going on at the Capitol.
Anything good?
No.
And they weren't afraid to say that either.
No.
Yeah, yep, no, that was a good scale.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Sounds good. Well, with that, then, I'm gonna recess and then, after the recess, we will, the city council will meet in closed session pursuant to Minnesota State Statutes 13D05 subdivision 3B for attorney-client discussion that requires absolute confidentiality regarding the pending litigation versus Amazing Brink Construction Engineering versus the city of Credit Rivers. So we'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:11.